It's been a while since I made a video. I've been really crazy busy. That's why. Apologize for that. And I hope the noise in the background is not disturbing my video. I hope the microphone is doing a good job. Noise reduction as per the background in the video. As you can see, there's a kind of waterfall here, and I hope that's not interfering. I'm going to review the video and see if that's interfering or not. Well, let's come to the reason why I made this video. We're in 2024, and there's a lot of uncertainties. Maybe the Fed increasing or reducing the interest rate, or how that's going to affect the market and things like that. So I just felt it's probably the right time for me to make this video. And what I want to talk about today is how to protect your assets in a crash. Now, if you're sure there's going to be a crash, I'm going to show you 4 ways that you can protect your assets or your investments. And when I'm talking about assets and investments, as you know, I'm all about stocks. Not any other assets, but stocks. Now, I'm going to start the introduction with, I'm going to start from the crudest way to protect your assets to the most sophisticated way to protect your assets. I'm not doing the sophisticated one. That's what the big boys to do. I'm just somewhere in the middle. And you can start, everybody knows the crude way. So the number one way, starting from the crude way, the number one way will be to stay in cash. So liquidate all your assets, stay in cash. Now, I know they say cash is trash, but when there's a crash, trust me, cash is not trash. Cash is an undeployed soldier waiting to be deployed to the battleground. So that's number one way, stay in cash until when you feel the crash is over, then you can come back into it. The number 2 way is to buy what we call protective puts. So if you have, the way protective puts work is this. What you're doing is, and I'm not going to take too much of your time, what you're trying to do is buy an insurance against your position. That's basically what it is. So if you have stocks, let's say it's currently trading at 150, okay? And you're thinking there might be a crash this year sometime, you can do what they call, you buy a put against that position, maybe for 150, or you can do a research into the details about this on Google or YouTube or whatever research tool you use. So you're going to buy a put. Again, you're buying a put, not selling a put. You're buying a put for a price that you choose. So if it's 150, you can buy a put against a 130 or a 140 position. And the dates can be up to a year out into the future, which will be the expiration date, a year out into, or whatever you feel. Usually it's not more than 2 years out. Usually it's even hard sometimes to find the 2 years. Most times you'll find 1 year or 6 months or whatever. So if you get a 2-year out one, that's fine. You can buy a put against that position. And what that does is this. It's a contract you're signing with someone that regardless of what happens to my stock, between now and the expiration date of that stock, I have the right to sell that stock to you at this agreed price. So if it's currently trading at 150 and you write a put contract for 130 or 140, it means for 2 years, it means between now and that expiration date in 2 years' time, I can sell the stock to you for that 130 or 140. So in case it falls to 90 or it falls to 70 or 80, you can turn around and sell that stock for 140. Or you can even do it for the same 150 that you're at. You can do it for 160. It's just going to cost you more. So that's how buying a protective put for your position, that's how it works. You can do more research on that. The third way that I want to touch on is what we call inverse ETFs. So if you're trading individual stocks, this might be tricky. You might not be able to do this. But if you're trading ETFs, which is what I expect most beginners to be, not trading, to be investing in ETFs, there are what we call, or indexes. There are what we call inverse ETFs. So the way those works is, if you took a chart of one of, let's say IWM, Russell 2000 ETF, the inverse ETF for that will be RWM. So IWM is the ETF, and the inverse of that will be RWM. And the way that works is if you look at the chart and put them side by side, you find out that when the Russell 2000 is going up, the inverse ETF is going down. And when the Russell 2000 is crashing, the inverse ETF is going up. So you can do that as well. Another simple one for maybe the S&P 500, the SPY ETF that tracks the S&P 500, the inverse of that will be the SH. Okay, you can do that side to side and see. I'm not sure I did a video about that some time ago. Not sure, but you can do that on your own. The Dow Jones DIA ETF that tracks the Dow Jones, the inverse of that or for that will be DOG, DOG. That's the inverse for that. So you can, buy inverse ETFs. And another place you can find these inverse ETFs is if you go to etfdb.com. On there, you see a lot of inverse ETFs. So that's another way to protect yourself against a crash. So when there's a crash and your own ETF is crashing, the inverse ETF will be going up. And the last one I'm going to be touching on, which is the most sophisticated way, which is how the big boys do it. I wouldn't advise you do this. These are the hedge fund managers and whatever do it. Is they short the market. Everything I've explained to you so far is a way of shorting the market as well, but they don't call it shorting the market, but it's a way of shorting the market. When you want to short the market the way the hedge fund managers do, you need to meet a bunch of criteria for your broker to allow you to be able to do this. But what you're doing, basically, I'll give you an example. Say you have an iPhone, and the iPhone currently costs 200, or let's say 800, or let's say 500, to make it simple, 500, okay? So the iPhone is 500, 10 of that will be 5,000, okay? So here's what you do. You borrow the iPhone. So the hedge fund managers, they have the privilege of borrowing stocks. There are lots of people that can borrow stocks as well, not only the hedge fund managers. So what you do is you borrow 10 iPhones. Don't buy. You borrow 10 iPhones from the supplier. Each of them costing 500. So that's worth 5,000. But know at this stage that you don't owe the supplier 5,000. You owe them 10 iPhones. All right? That's very crucial to understand. What you then do is you sell those iPhones for 500, which is the current market value, and you keep the 5,000 and you hold. But know that when you borrow that those iPhones, there's an expiration date. You can't borrow it forever. So you might borrow, you're in a contract with them that, okay, after 6 months, I'll return your 10 iPhones, or after 1 year, I'll return your 10 iPhones, or after 3 months, depending. You can choose whatever you come to an agreement with. So you owe them 10 iPhones. You have sold the iPhones for 5 grand, and you're holding on to the cash. Let's then say in 3 months' time or 6 months' time, a new iPhone comes out. Generally, what tends to happen, this is not a rule, but what tends to happen is the current iPhone, the price drops. So if the price drops from 500, let's say, to 400, what you then do is you take that 5,000 you've been sitting on, you buy back 10 iPhones from the market now at 400, okay? And then you return the 10 iPhones to the supplier that you borrowed the 10 iPhones from. So you've given them back what you owe them. But remember, you sold it for 5,000, and then you're buying it back for 4,000. And then you get to keep the 1,000 difference between what you sold it for and what you're buying it back from. So in this case, it's not a matter of buying and selling. It's a matter of selling first and then buying. All right? And that is how this works. And that's how the danger to that is you have that time period for the contract to work. If it doesn't drop within that time period, or if in fact the price goes up, then you're going to have to go, say it goes from 500 to 600 against all bets. You're going to have to go back into the market and buy it back for 6,000 to give them back their 10 iPhones. In that case, you would have lost 1,000. And there's no limits to how high it can go. That's the danger in doing this. So the two dangers in that is the time that you have. The price has to move in that time, and it has to move favorably. The second danger is the price can go against you, which is go up and continue to go up in perpetuity. So I'll leave it at that today, and I hope you've picked up one or two things from what I have to say today. And hopefully, again, I'll see you in my next video.